Hi, greetings and welcome. Welcome back to the next vlog. This time it's the 1990 World Championships in the former state Yugoslavia. Now the World Championships, as I said, in Maribor, Yugoslavia, was on the River Drava. Now this was most memorable, not so much for the fishing, but also the circumstances leading up to it. Basically, the country was having a political problem at the time, and it was evident that the local people that we were bumping into, they seemed a bit edgy, and they didn't want to talk about it much. Although a friendly bunch of people they were, and quite often we were being asked to change money, their currency for our currency, the British pound, and it was on a regular basis, Anyway, I've got to tell you about this because on one occasion, not really mentioning any names, but it was Eric's wife, Eric Humphrey's wife. She was duped out of about 30 quid, which is a lot of money, I suppose, in them days. She was duped by somebody showing the money and then rolled it up in wrapped paper, in newspaper, and it was like a scam. And anyway, it was uproar. When she approached the local police about a loss, they weren't amused at all. In fact, she almost got arrested for even trying to exchange the money in the first place. Oh, what a bloody performance that was. Oh, lucky they bloody did knock it up. Yeah, because I think the problem was creeping into the Welsh team. Wives were being allowed to come. Up until then, I took my wife a couple of times, but they usually stayed out, on the sidelines while we concentrated on our fishing. But anyway, I got to tell you, the hotel that we stayed at was something out of like a Dracula film as well. It was modern, by their standards. It was comfortable, I suppose. And anyway, I was sharing a room with Clive Branson at the time, my fishing pal, and anyway, in the evening, they didn't have no fridges for us to keep our maggots in, so we were in a bit of a dilemma really, because didn't know what to do. So what we decided to do is leave the maggot bait in the bathroom, we thought with a cool breeze coming through. Anyway, we went downstairs having a drink at the bar, and not soon after, about half hour or so later, we heard a scream from the foyer. The manageress, in a very irate voice, was shouting and pointing at some bright bronze maggots that were dropping down from the spiral staircase, right above her and right onto her desk. Well, I tell you what, the police were called. Our passports were confiscated, and a team of fumigators were called in, and they all come with masks and fully protected clothing. Oh, you should have seen it, the whole works. Anyway, there weren't many maggots escaped, maybe half a pint or something, I don't know, they come out of the tin. Maybe been a couple of pints, I don't know, but they sweated up, and you know what happens. Anyway, when they cleaned up the hotel, we were presented with a huge bill that Captain John Mayers had to sort out. Unfortunately, all the team had to chip in because we couldn't get our passports back unless we'd done that. Anyway, I think some of us were a bit short of cash, and we had to reimburse them when we got home. But that was a story I just had to tell you. So funny things happen sometimes in World Champs. Anyway, the event, again, the highs and lows of match fishing, it was an anticlimax again from the year before, It was, I can remember the official trip to practice to the venue, and we witnessed some of the most beautiful countryside you can imagine. And it was while we were travelling on the official coach, I actually got talking to a home team member, and he was telling me that there was all sorts of things going on, people getting murdered and going missing, and there was going to be a revolution in the country soon. And he asked us if we could tell the people back home what was happening, and certain people were being persecuted. I mean, really, we don't want to get into politics when we're away, but I did feel sorry for them. Anyway, I think it was Croatia and Slovenia. They both wanted independence, and history will tell us that that really was the last time we ever fished a World Championships in the country of Yugoslavia, because shortly afterwards, of course, they did split the country. Yeah, so I got to tell you, the championships venue was a deep flowing river, and I think special tactics were needed because they had these turbines that sort of made the water flow very fast on certain times, and then slower. But generally, it was quite a fast river, and I believe this is where we learned how to use the big pear-shaped pole floats. Overshotted. And by overshotting the float, you could hold it back against the flow, and by doing that, it's much easier to control the flow through the swim. But you had to get the balance right. You had to make sure it's there's plenty of weight down and overshotted. Again, it's contravening the laws, but that's the only way you could really present the bait. And I learned this through our practice. And I'll tell you what happened, because that year we did arrive quite early, and which is quite unusual really for us. But we arrived earlier than some of the other teams. So anyway, we were there, trying different tactics, and as I said, we come up with a plan, to overshot the float and do it. So anyway, the fish really wanted the bait slowed up in this very fast water, and as I said, because it was controlled by hydro turbines, or turbines above the match length, 1 minute it would slow up, next minute it'd go extra fast like a train. So so using these extremely large pear-shaped floats, well overshotted, we could control the pace of the flow, and of course with a pole holding it over the float, and what we were doing, we were catching like a sterlet barbel type of fish, and they were well, Kevin Asher's nicknamed them the cigar fish, and I think it's because that if you managed to land one, you had a cigar. But no, they were long and funny pointed noses. As I said, in a lot of World Championships we do come across some fish we haven't encountered before. So yeah, so anyway, I'm going to tell you something now that I think may have helped the English team, and maybe Bob Nudd as well. Possibly. Anyway, when the England team arrived, they actually stopped to watch us fish for a while, and I believe that I may have helped the English lads with our practice, because as they were watching us, we had spent the time, to sort of sort this out, and they could see that we were catching a few fish. So anyway, catching these small sterlet barbel type of fish, it was interesting, because they would hug the bottom like a barbel would, and a small 12-ounce pound fish would take a while to get up off the bottom, because it's quite deep as well. Anyway, as I said, Kevin Asher's nicknamed the cigar fish, and they were few and far between. There weren't masses amount on there, but you had to take special care to when you hooked them, bring them up slowly off the bottom. About 18 foot of water it was. Anyway, as I said, on the practice day, the England lads were watching us, and I think it gave them a little start, because they didn't have to, because I suppose they would have come to the same conclusion, because there was no other way to really fish that. I know that the World Championships were held again there only recently, last few years, and unfortunately a lot of the teams didn't quite get the grips with it. But anyway, that's another story for maybe a later vlog. But anyway, the other thing I'm going to mention as well is on the match on the first day, I drew next to Marcel van der Nijnd, which I'd already mentioned in a previous vlog. And I knew I had a battle on my hands, because he was like one of the best in the world at the time on the pole. And anyway, we were both catching fish for fish, and until I lost one. which come off the hook, and it cost me from winning the section. But anyway, another disaster struck as well, which is something we didn't take into account. We noticed that the very hot weather was actually killing the maggots, and we were, as the match progressed, we found it difficult to actually find a live maggot. So we were trying to fish under the shade. Of course, in them days we didn't think of using cooling boxes and things like that. But as I say, that was a lesson that we learned. Anyway, nevertheless, beating gold medalist Van der Nijnd off the next peg was a minor victory for me, as he was regarded, said, to be one of the best in the world on the long pole, and I was getting pretty good on the pole as well. As I said, I did curse my luck, losing that fish. And over the 2 days, I think I finished 17th, which is on par on the first time I fished the World Championships on Evesham, But it proven again, that we still had the potential when our team, finished, in the top 10. We still had our chances. Okay. Anyway, I got to tell you, Team England proved yet again, under Dick Clegg, he was like a magician. Every year they were in the medals, and this year again. Well, the individual, Bob Nudd, he became the world champion, as I said, with 2 kilos 665 grams, and for the first time. And then Kevin Ashurst, Paul Kevin, was second again, just ounces again from becoming world champion, for his second time. So it was really, it was unlucky for Kevin, but unlucky for well, for me and our Welsh team. But anyway, I got to tell you, I become good friends with Bob over the years, and I had a picture taken together, and I'll put a picture on the end of the video anyway, because Bob has turned out to be a real gentleman in the sport. When I first got to know Bob, he was very quiet, compared with a couple of the other English guys, and even in Ireland he always seemed to be a bit reserved. But as the years got on, he became a real nice guy, and as we all know, he went on to win the championship 4 times. So he's going to go down in history as one of the best anglers. The other thing, just to let you know, the French team proved that they were the masters at long distance fishing using the method. Now they used a slightly different method than us, holding it back, because they more or less undershotted the float. Instead of overshotting, they undershotted it, so it was quite buoyant on the water, and they held the pole below the surface. So when they got a bite, it was going to be positive. Now that is a method that I've never seen used before. But as I said, the French, I'll tell you, even though it's on my website, I'll put a diagram on the end of this so you can actually see what I mean, because it was quite interesting. I don't know if anyone's ever used that method in this country. I don't know, can't think of water that you can actually use it, because we don't get that flow like they did, 18 foot of water just bombing through, but it was certainly, as I said, it was certainly a method you've got to, perhaps look at it if ever you do come across that side of the water. Anyway, just to let you know the results, to be correct, Bob Nudd won it, Ashurst was second, and a guy from Luxembourg called Coin, he was third, and it was pretty close, the weights. France won it individually with 60 points, and England again was second, still in the main frame, fair dues to Dick, he kept them there all the time, and Italy were third, they beat Italy. So, at that stage of the game, for many, many years, England hadn't done anything at all, and then all of a sudden, the last few years, they're now catching up to all the leading team medal contenders. So, it was good to be, part of that era to see it all happen. Yeah, so as I say, it was a great match really for England and Bob, and also for Kevin, and as I say, it's one of the things that we perhaps maybe again the Welsh team was learning. Never mind. I'm going to tell you now that this is where, as I said, ups and downs of World Fishing Championships. Something drastic was going on behind the scenes, and we had a change of manager and a complete change of Welsh team the following year. Anyway, come back for that, because you might find that interesting.